Even though the heavy summer sun beats down on the body of Margaret, barmaid of the Golden Sheaf, she feels cold. She looks across the freshly dug grave at Gareth, and then at the stone guard that was sent as a representative of the king under the mountain. She feels that tears form and fall down her face. Donar, the old dwarven barfly, deserved more and he deserved better. How many years had he lived? How much had he seen? How much had he shared? And now, at the point when he should be remembered by kith and kin, there was one silent dwarf and two workers from his favourite drinking hole. Ever since Balin had played fast and loose with the trust of the townsfolk, pretending to be dead only to emerge clearly alive a few days later, there had been a growing rift that was felt through all levels of Dale society. Trust between town and mountain had not been aided by word that Lord Gunvar of Ashbrook had died in a dwarven cell earlier in the year. Margaret felt trapped by all the talk of the dishonesty of dwarves, the greedy plotting under the mountain, and what she herself had experienced from them: friendship, care, affection. What was the truth? She shook her head. Travellers had spoken that the great forest of Mirkwood was darkening. Maybe the cold she felt was a shadow now stretching into Dale as well. All she could do was shed her tears and hope that the shadow would pass. Welcome to Most Off Topic Plays Laughter of Dragons, episode 16, session 8, I think. I'm joined by the usual crew, Ben.
Hello.
Joe.
Hello.
Matt.
Good evening.
Breaking with tradition, though. It should have just been a hello.
I thought you were trying to seduce the audience with that response.
It was a little bit, wasn't it? So it's been a little while. We had Christmas. We had the start of 2021. Bless its cotton socks. But we're back now, streaming this, and we will be putting this up onto the YouTubes as usual. So we're still playing through Laughter of Dragons, still more or less keeping to the book. This session is a little bit more homebrewy, but not massively so. And therefore, if you're playing Laughter of Dragons, if you're thinking of playing Laughter of Dragons, if your Lord Master is going, hey, I might just pull some stuff out of Laughter of Dragons, then be warned, you may well get spoiled. And the stream may get interrupted if Kenny decides to come in and just make his presence known. In which case we'll possibly take a break. And thank you everybody for your views, for the comments. It's just generally been awesome. It really is appreciated, and we're hoping that you'll enjoy this session as well. So, who wants to recap what's happened so far in the last adventuring phase?
I would like news.
I would like to volunteer Matt, because I think he's clearly in his upbeat zone.
Matt's got his suave newsreader voice on.
Yes. So as far as you mean on the fellowship phase, right? Not the adventuring.
Yeah, just generally what has happened to your characters in recent times.
Yeah. So we got invited to a party, which was, I mean, it seemed grand on paper. Turned out to be a little bit less so. But we've all, turned up in good spirits. Then we decided to put, we're dressing up as sort of sheep in wolf's clothing and decided to storm our kin's, was it mountain, sort of like a mining facility? Just doing a little sabotage, as you do, typical insurrection type of situation. We now hate dwarves, so we want to dress up as non-dwarves to attack the dwarves. And that didn't work very well because we got a little bit upset to chase our fellow dwarves. We got rid of them. We met Dane, which was nice. And that's a very brief, I think, summary. I did manage. Oh yeah, I do have to mention that we were trying to avoid violence as much as possible and use diplomacy where we could. And we were very diplomatic, I would say. So, yeah, I think we've handled that pretty well.
Yeah, your diplomatic got some news for sure.
Yeah.
That's right. So you were you kind of follow the breadcrumbs really through Dale to kind of establish who was behind these attacks on Balin, and in the wider context, who was possibly trying to destabilize or escalate conflicts between Dale and between Erebor for whatever purpose is not especially well understood, I don't think. But you had your kind of investigations and your kind of rhetoric previously, and the relationship that you had found with some of the dwarves of the Iron Hills had led you to Lord Gunvar of Ashbrook, and then onwards to the attempt to sabotage the first forge, almost sacred space within the mountains of Erebor. And you successfully thwarted that, came to the attention of Dane. Dane interrogated you a little bit, established and your good intentions, and you were vouched for from Balin. Then you opened up Erebor as a sanctuary, doing various things around kind of like the city there. And it's kind of like late summer of the year. Late summer 959, in fact. And you're currently still located in Erebor, I think. Yep. Okay. So as you're kind of going about your business, Torg, whatever that business may well be within Erebor, one of the messenger dwarves of Erebor comes kind of racing up to you, kind of bows in front of you, and hands you a little note.
Okay.
Sealed with the kind of gate seal of Erebor to indicate that it has passed through the main gate. And typically these kind of things are, if somebody's come into Erebor but aren't able to get past the gate, they'll leave a message, and the message will go and get passed into the city.
Okay. So it's come from someone outside of Erebor.
That is correct.
Who knew I was in Erebor.
That is correct.
Okay. I guess I'll just really briefly question the messenger if he knows anything at all. Has this come directly from the gate? Did you see the bearer of this message?
I did not, my lord. The message is taken at the gate and then given to whomever of us is on shift.
Very well. Thank you. I'll just dismiss him. Read the message.
Okay, so the message is written to you, my lord Torg, son of Turek. In memory of the small friendship that we share and the mutual affection that we hold for the late Donar, we would beseech you to come to the Golden Sheaf as a matter of haste. We fear that there is evil afoot that may be directed to the companion Domi. I do not wish to speak more over letters, but would prefer to speak in person. You're always good friends to us and trustworthy members of your kin. We would appreciate it if you could attend with due haste so that we can talk through these matters that we fear have an evil cast. Gareth and Margaret of the Golden Sheaf. Dale.
So Donar, so this letter says that Donar has died in strange circumstances. And no, it just says that he's dead.
It just says it's dead, yeah. But they use the mutual affection that you all held for Donar as a kind of like a way to kind of like try to build a bridge with you.
Yeah.
I didn't really care for him.
It talks about ill intent towards Domi, who was the lawkeeper who
The law
left in
master.
haste, as you remember last time.
Yeah. And who signed it?
Margaret and Gareth, the barmaid
Margaret
and
and
the
Gareth,
barman
yep.
of the Golden Sheaf.
I remember them. Yeah. I remember the cold black pudding well. Okay. Well, just when we were beginning to find our feet on the lonely mountain, it looks like we must descend and return to Dale. Sad to hear the passing of Donar.
Yeah, did they bury him quite quick then? I'd have thought if we'd have heard of it, at least, well, Torg probably would have gone. I didn't really care for him. He seemed like a sponger.
Yeah, so you may even be a little bit intrigued as to that, but you have been going about your business in Erebor, finding your feet there, establishing your routines and whatnot there. I haven't ventured into Dale to catch up on the local news and such like.
No, we've been here a while. I have great respect for Donar. He was a veteran of many battles, and he chose to live out his final years doing what he loved most, which was getting blind drunk every night
On someone else's coin.
And it would please me to revisit the snug of the Golden Sheaf and hear the songs sung by the hearth. Maybe once more sample the Dalish ale.
Sure.
Sounds like a good plan.
Always happy to stretch my legs.
Okay, you gather your things, head off into Dale.
We'd probably better move fairly quickly, I guess, given that it takes a long time to deliver a message and then respond to that message. Donar will be baking in the sun, I imagine, if it's summertime.
Mm-hmm.
If he's not already buried.
Not already buried.
Well, you don't
He
know.
had a very moving passage.
No,
there
Torg
was-
wouldn't know.
There was hobbits in attendance, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Okay, so you gather your things, and later that day you kind of head through Stangard, the city that forms the heart of the residential district of Erebor, through the wide lit kind of trunk route passages as you move through all the stonework on the walls, the gilding, demonstrating the power and affluence of dwarves. Very many of the stone guard around, and it's not that often that you head up towards the main gate in your daily movements, but it all feels a little bit strange, a little bit officious, and not especially kind of like welcoming. Away from the gate and away from the main entrance halls and such like, it's very much kind of like a very familial and community centered area. But here it's got the edge of officialdom about it. And as you kind of move through out towards the gate, you are processed through. It's not kind of like it's not like a barrier that you have to kind of go through security for, but there's very much a definite notice of who has left and such like, and then out into the bright sunlight. It's like you've left a cinema that you've been in for the better part of a few months, out into this brightness, this azure blue sky, but there's just blinding sun, and the warmth that hits you feel that kind of on your skin and kind of like on your backs, And whilst it's very uniform of temperature in the mountain, out here you just get that richness and the smells that kind of assault you, the richness of the loam, the kind of freshness of the air, and some tinges of smoke coming up from the hearths of Dale. But there's just a breadth to the sensory landscape that you kind of don't quite get so much in Erebor. And which one you prefer is kind of for you to decide. But it is quite a sensory overload to start, and then as your eyes adjust, you can kind of like see more of the details as the scene becomes desaturated to your eyes. But the senses are still alive. It's going to take you a little while for all of that to settle down. And it is late summer. As you kind of come down, the river running is roaring through and kind of starts to move off. And you see the huge stone walls of Dale in front of you. A little foot traffic, but not a substantial amount as you kind of walk down through into Dale. And then Dale itself is alive. If you thought it was sensory overload once you left the mountain, it's like going into an echoing chamber with 1,000 children screaming and having their own separate conversations as all this sound and noise and movement happens around you. Whilst the mountain of Erebor is busy, it feels more ordered. It feels more like working in a library than in this cacophony that is surrounding you. You see the kind of towers and the bell towers, and when they all ring in this kind of like 5 minutes, as they're supposed to call in the hour, but everybody has a slightly different view of when the hour starts. It kind of like it's like somebody's just ringing in your ears. And you make your way through the market square, which is as busy as you recall it, but it's slightly offensive to your eyes now in terms of the lack of structure and the milling and the movement. And you all sense a little bit of distance from the people within the city. There was a strangeness when you were there before, Balin having died, but now there's like a little bit of it's almost like you've been looked down upon slightly by quite a lot of the people. And the dwarven stores in the market square have, and it's not just because you're dwarves. The dwarven stores in the market square are a little less busy than you recall. And you find yourselves at the sign of the Golden Sheaf, just off the market square. The building hasn't changed, particularly stone lower, kind of like a timber upper. People around and about the main road, moving about their business, an entrance way around the back into the stabling area, and then you step into the main big front room, and your eyes can't help but be drawn across to the corner where Donar sat, and there is in fact a stool there, and there's a small glass sat in front of the seat. And as soon as you kind of enter and kind of like shake yourselves down a little bit, and your eyes adjust to the slight gloom in here, and you smell a little bit of the incense, the lingering smell of the Easterlings that you can kind of now feel and smell newly. You see Margaret cleaning up a table. And she comes racing off across to you. Gareth! And she bows low to you. Come, sit. Drinks for our companions. And she kind of like takes you to one of the quieter corners. It's quite busy, and it's busy with traders and farmers bringing their goods in. Merchant class, well, else. There are none of the Easterlings in at present. Gareth kind of calls one of his barmen across, has a quiet word with them, and then kind of comes and joins you at the table.
Yeah.
Drink and food is brought out to you.
Okay. So greet them with courtesy and warmth, obviously, befitting our kind of relationship with them. and then offer kind of commiserations. And, sad. These are sad tidings indeed that Donna has passed so early in our friendship as well. I hope to spend many, many hours at your bar sharing his stories of battle.
They look across.
Tell me when.
At each other. I'm kind of like, thank you.
Tell me when did he pass? Was it in this last week or?
No, it is a month, maybe 5 weeks since he passed. Gareth says. A sad time for all.
Then we've missed the wake.
There was not much of a wake. Oh,
really?
There was little attendance, and those townsfolk that we thought would attend, they turned their back. I do not know if you have been into the town recently, but since the situation with my lord Balin and many of the townsfolk believe that the dwarves played the men for fools, and even though there is some word that Lord Gunvar had done a great wrong against the dwarves, it is also not great that a member of the Danish nobility had died in the custody of the dwarves. There are many who would ask what has been covered up, as there has been no ability to have a trial of that man. But it is a sad time. We do not believe much of what has been common currency amongst the tilly-tattles.
Lord Gunvar was a traitor, and he proved it with his actions. We can all vouch for that. What did Donar have to do with any of this? Why was he snubbed? He had many friends in the town.
He did indeed, but there is something that has just gripped the hearts and the minds. Some foul influence that is starting to spread. Whispers, and the common opinion is turned against the mountain. And those who forget themselves, they forget, I guess, everything, all of the good things that have been done by dwarves, and are quick to be listening to the tilly-tattles and the gossip and the ridiculousness that has been spread about and abroad.
It saddens me deeply to hear this. This cuts me deeply. What of Domi, the lawmaster?
Yes,
Is
yes.
he still here in Dale?
No, he left that night when he moved quickly. We are really concerned for him. He left payment for his room and said that he would be back. He was due back 2 weeks ago. So he would have been gone a couple of months or so, maybe a bit longer. And there's been one attempt that I know of to break into his room in the night, and we think the inn is being watched by people with some ill intent. One of our maids was attacked. That's what prompted us to seek help. One of our maids was attacked, and
is she alive?
She escaped, uninjured, by good grace. But her attackers wanted to know what was in Domi's room, where the keys were, and such things. We we would normally take this to the king and his guard, but the way that things are about dwarves at the moment, we think that it might be cause for further incitement and hatred. And we know that you, and you in particular, Sir, had much conversation with Domi. So we thought that perhaps this is something that you could look into. And if Domi is in some kind of danger, you are well equipped to manage that kind of danger.
Could we see in his room?
Of course, yes. And Gareth? Yes. The break-in was at night. I heard some movement about. I took my dogs with me. And they barked and the stench was foul. It was acrid and made my eyes water. It tasted like somebody had got manure and earth and mixed them together. It took us a while to get rid of the smell from in front of the room, and there was this, and he hands you a fragment of cloth. This was caught on some of the railings where I think that the assailant had climbed the stable wall.
This smell? It's nothing I've smelled before. Is it?
Yes, it's the smell. Given that you have the trait orc. Is it orc hatred you have?
I have. It's not a trait; it's a virtue. It's old hatred of orcs. It gives me a damage bonus against orcs.
I've got enemy lore if that helps for
enemy lore. Yeah, so Lothar would be able to tell you that the smell is a smell of orcs, and that he examines the kind of like the cloth. You think it is a cloth of orcs.
Orcs in the city again.
Yeah. Terrible. We need to find them and eradicate them.
Purge them.
Why would they break into Lomi's room unless it were to murder him?
I do not know.
Maybe he had something.
It is known that he
Maybe.
It is known that he's not been in the city. It was a scene when he left, as I recall. It was quite a
scene.
Well, if you remember, he moved with great haste, and he kind of moved very quickly with.
I do. I recall now. Yes.
But
maybe it's something that he had. Maybe either in his room.
Yeah, he didn't want any. He didn't want any help at all, did he?
Possibly.
But
if you are minded to take upon this task, we can offer no great reward, but we will offer as much help as we can.
Of course, we would expect no reward, no gold.
Maybe a bit of a black pudding. That would go a long way.
Oh yes, I forgot, Lothar, how much you enjoyed the black pudding. We will go and get some congealed pig's blood for you. We'll even warm it.
Can we search for any other clues in Domi's room? It may just be a cursory search rather than.
Let's do some searching.
So Gareth leads you up the stairs, up the familiar stairs, into the familiar kind of corridor that you guys led up to your rooms. All of the rooms are occupied now because of the traders, but we've kept Domi's room unoccupied because he paid up until a couple of weeks ago. And I have the keys. I'm the only one who has the keys to the rooms, and they have not left my person. And he kind of like comes there and kind of opens it out. We do clean the room every week and open the windows whilst the maid is doing, just to get the air circulate and to check that all is well. and it just feels quite cold as you go into the room. That there's been no fire in the hearth, and even though it's summer, it's still kind of it's settling down to the ambient temperature, and it's a north-facing room, so you don't get the warmth of the summer aspect. So as you go in, you feel like that not being occupied room feel as you kind of come back to a house after a couple of weeks holiday style. The bed's made. There's no great personal artifacts kind of around. There's this chest, and Domi kind of Gareth points to a small travel chest. This is Domi's, but the rest of the fittings are of the inns.
We should inspect it.
Yeah, we should do a search, customary search.
Yeah,
Inspect the chest. Yeah.
Okay. I will stay if you do not mind. Domi
Please.
is still my customer.
Of course.
Though he only paid up to around about a couple of weeks ago. We are still keeping his room. You can tell there's a little tinge in the back of his mind that this really sticks in him. Like, you know, he is a businessman after all. But also it's not the main thing that's motivating him.
We'll of course cover the costs of maintaining the room in Domi's absence. And in fact, given that I am quite rich,
Considerably richer than Yao.
perhaps we can. I had to just check. I thought it was merely prosperous, but no. I'm
merely prosperous. You're balling.
I would
be confused with Balin.
I would like to maintain Domi's room. Should he return, he'll find it untouched. But for now, let us see if he has left some clue as to his whereabouts.
You are incredibly generous, my lord. Incredibly generous. Thank you so much. Okay. What do you want to inspect the chest? Or
I would want to. If there's anything, do you want to search the room as well? I mean, I would kind of want to search the room as well.
I mean, I think search is pretty good for me. Yeah, I've got 3 points in it, so I'm kind of aching to use it. Really.
Yeah. Okay.
4.
Yeah. Likewise.
I've got 4 and a +8 to it if I spend a hope.
Need to erase all my previous advancement points.
Yeah, of course. Oh, we need to do like session objective and such like and so forth as well.
Well, now seems like
work out what's happened to Domi.
Have some black pudding.
Oh, we're done.
Check.
Cool, right, let's call it there then.
Probably some ale. You want to wash that with some ale? That would be.
I put it in ale. I'm not sure.
So there's something about Donar as well, because you know
we haven't found out how he died yet. We haven't actually
Exactly.
asked. Did he get murdered?
Yeah, I think we need to dig a bit deeper into Donar and establish whether there was some involvement of orcish nature.
He literally lived next door to the pub.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But if he'd have seen orcs, he would have done something.
Adam.
Yeah.
Well, he'd have tried.
And then I guess there's something about getting towards the tip of the iceberg with this kind of greater rift between men and dwarves. We're not going to uncover it in this session, but you know, let's start moving towards that direction.
Yeah. Okay.
Instead of just kind of hanging out in the Golden Sheaf. That's I guess what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Okay. So understand a bit more about what's happened to Domi. Understand whether there was any suspicious cause of death around Donar. And
the link,
The orcs. I want to find out about the orcs as well. Yeah. I think we should.
Yeah, I think Donar is possibly a link, so establish that.
steal any research that Domi was working on.
Claim it as your own.
Yeah.
No, I think you'll
Spell that
find
his
it
name
was
right,
Cirque that found how to harness the power of electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So those of you who want to hunt around and search, give me search rolls, please.
3 points.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
22.
16, 18.
Extraordinary.
Normal. Apparently we're good at searching.
Yeah, it's literally. I've got search, law, and explore. That's all I can do.
Okay.
I've just got 16 normal success.
Okay. So 22 extraordinary if you want to do all your marking down and stuff on those sheets and such like.
It's totally a waste for a first run. For a first novel.
Okay, so Cirque, you start your attentions really on the traveller's chest, which is a very sturdy kind of box, locked.
Is how much attention is what's his search paying?
Gareth.
Can I unlock it in my customary?
So Gareth is not paying masses of attention, to be perfectly honest. He's kind of like doing the polite being there whilst you put your PIN number into the machine, kind of like look. So clearly he does, clearly he trusts you guys. He wants you to be able to go on and do stuff, but he's also got a responsibility, he feels, to Domi to not just completely abdicate the whole thing. Possibly a little bit.
With broken spells then.
Yeah, okay. As you're doing that with your extraordinary success and such, like you understand that that's how Domi locked it as well.
Cool.
And you kind of pop it open, and there are various parchments, letters, inks. It looks very much like his kind of like a lore master traveling kit, and it looks like he, like a lot of lore masters, he kept kind of like working copies of lots of his notes, and kept them safe back at base style. So you're starting to move through that kind of content.
Yeah, start skimming through his info.
Yeah, and as you other guys are working through the room, the only kind of like clothes and stuff that you find are city clothes. So you know he came through to Dale in the winter, but any of his like hiking gear or outdoors gear has been taken, and is gone as well. But you find no suggestions of anything missing that you would expect to be there, or anything out of place, or anything kind of like rifled through, or anything along those lines. So with the success that you've got, it's as much about knowing that it hasn't been pilfered as it is finding anything untoward.
So whatever they were looking for is potentially still here.
Yes.
If it was here in the first place.
Yeah.
So the attempt to break into his room, they didn't actually get into his room.
That's what you surmise, yes.
Okay. So there was some kind of noise, a commotion, a sound of
Gareth saw off with his
breaking
dog, didn't
glass. And they attempted to break in from the outside of the inn.
They were in this corridor, Gareth says. They had broken through the end window, and they were trying to break the door, break the lock. And that's when my dogs and I, there was only one of them, my dogs and I stumbled. I think it was the dogs that scared it off.
And the maid was a separate incident then.
Yes. She was making her way here
he?
one morning, and she was jumped by Some of the thugs, probably from Brokenstone.
Did
And they
those
were
thugs smell badly? Did she say?
No, we didn't really ask, but she didn't mention it. It's the never-do-wells. They congregate sometimes outside, and we think that there are those watching the inn. And he kind of like leans you to one side, and you can see out of the window onto the corridor, and you kind of into the roadside. He says, "Look there." There's not maybe early 20s figure, scraggy beard, unkempt hair, not great quality clothes, probably a little bit too small for him. Not a consistent look at all. Kind of like leaning in that pose that people have when they're just slightly bored about the task that they've been given to do. Kind of has a quite quick look across at the place, looks up at the window. Gareth immediately kind of like steps back, but from the angle that you're at, you don't think he would have been able to kind of like see you in there.
Looks like someone that Lothar should have a word with.
Yeah, well, I was about to say perhaps we could have a discussion, maybe a little chat, see what he knows.
Are you going to sneak after him? Or are you going to wave out the window?
Yeah, because it seems like there's not much sort of activity. There's not any chaos inside. There's no signs of like forced entry, I guess, massive. So there's no. I was expecting the room to be completely like in pieces, but I maybe be better spend my time outside, sneaking out, trying to see what they're doing.
At the barracks thing, wasn't it? When we went there.
Sorry, say it again, because it cut out a bit.
When we went into the old barracks, it was just one orc that was there, wasn't it?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
And this is another instance where it's just one orc again in the passageway, breaking in.
Yeah, based upon what you've been told. That to be fair.
Do orcs often work on their own, like in individuals?
Like maybe some scouts, maybe unless it's a goblin sniper, then in that case he works very much alone and you can't even engage him in combat. So. But yeah, I would assume.
But they're scared of dogs. A goblin sniper's scared of dogs.
I don't know that Torg would know much about the behaviour of orcs, but I'm guessing that like Uruk-hai would be much more confident entering somewhere like the Golden Sheaf on their own.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. They are accustomed to humans, and I think some of them speak even our language to some degree.
They speak Dwarvish.
Sorry, but yeah, long week. No, the human or common tongue. Yeah.
Interesting.
So I think I better stake out or try to sneak out and perhaps have a chat.
He hasn't. Presumably, he's not run off at our arrival to inform anyone we've turned up. So whether unless someone comes to talk to him, maybe keep an eye on him and see if anyone then follow anyone who comes to talk to him.
Yeah, I'll get a fresh ale and just sort of pretend I'm a little bit under the influence. I have done that in the past. It seemed to work quite well.
You've definitely been under the influence in the past.
Yeah. Okay. So you're down there doing that. Sir, what are you doing? You kind of going through the documents?
I'm rifling through his private correspondence.
Yep. So the first thing that you kind of come across is a bundle of draft letters. The first one is a draft from Domi to King Bard. And this letter is written with the formulaic greetings that you would expect to the king. Domi introduces himself, talks about his credentials, talks about kind of his background and his experience and so on, and then goes on to say that Domi has come into the possession of a number of letters between King Thror and Girion, Lord of Dale, from centuries ago, before the dragon Smaug came, and they concern the intention to employ a group of dwarven stonemasons for the building of a mausoleum in the northern portion of Girion's realm for the purpose of receiving the immortal remains of my beloved eldest, who, as you know, died prematurely of a fever contracted in Mirkwood. He loved the frontier and will rest forever there. And that's in quotes, as Domi is quoting that from the letter. And then the letter goes on to say, as you will know, I'm sure, King Bard, Girion gave a necklace of 500 emeralds to the dwarves as payment for the arming of his eldest son in a coat of dwarf-linked rings, the like of which had never been made before. And you all know the story of how Dane found that necklace in the Dragon's Hoard and restored it to Girion's heir, King Bard, who in turn gave it to the Elven King Thranduil as a gift after the Battle of Five Armies. Some of you were probably even there when that kind of exchange kind of happened. But what is unknown, Domi says, to legend, is what happened to the coat of mail that was bought with the necklace in the first instance. And legend says it was a wondrous artifact wrought of pure silver to the power and strength of triple steel. What Domi has surmised is that he believes that was buried with Girion's eldest son in the mausoleum that Girion had commissioned the dwarves to build towards the end of his realm. Domi has come to Dale with the intent of locating the mausoleum and the aim of recovering the treasure that he believes the evidence points to being rightfully King Bard's inheritance.
Ooh. So if we find that will get us in Bard's good books as well.
There's a second letter to King Dane, another draft. And what would normally happen is you would draft this and then you would get a script, like a scribe. I don't know what I was trying to work out then. A scribe to actually write up a neat one. So you maybe
with like one of those sort of fancy P's or T's at the beginning.
Yeah, all painted in and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah.
So Domi sent another letter to King Dane, and he outlined very similar, almost kind of like, Control C, Control V in some of the text kind of thing. Hit forward on the email, took out the FWD bit, and kind of like finessed it a little. And that, but that is primarily about asking permission to go to Jerem Marzabal under the mountain to inspect the records of the Lonely Mountain as an attempt to pinpoint the location that was chosen to build the mausoleum. And you know that he was in and out of the chamber quite a lot, so you didn't necessarily know exactly what he was working on at the time.
Yeah.
As you kind of like get a little bit further into this, there's some general notes on the nature and the background of the assumed coat of mail. There may have been lesser versions of it that were created as the dwarven smiths essayed their skills to make the master one. There's a list of potential research topics that Domi wants to kind of approach, potential materials that he thinks are available in the chamber under the mountain, and references that are quite oblique, lots of like acronyms, TLAs, stuff like that you don't really kind of like get. Give me a lore roll actually.
$23, great success.
Okay, so yeah, you can read between the lines. As you're studying this thing, you're starting to work out some of the acronyms that he's using, and some of the kind of like codes and references he's using. So there's no like universal Dewey symbol system or anything like that. But you've got a good feel for the kinds of text that he would have been looking at, and the era and the authors, and where they may well be referenced within the chamber. This is clearly where he's been down in the chamber, and he's been like, right, I read this reference and that reference this, and then I went and had a look in this other thing. So you might be able to rebuild the research that he did with that role.
Cool. Yeah, I presume, like, having worked with him when he was helping me do mine, I'd have had some understanding of his shorthand.
Yeah. And that's kind of pretty much what is in the chest.
Yes, I'll put it all back neatly, lock it again, and basically say I'm done here, and go and inform the others of what I found.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll also seal the door once it's locked properly.
I thought you said
lock the door.
Not
use your door.
Yeah. I thought you said
steal the door.
I thought you said steal the door, like you're going to nick it.
No, I'll lock the door to his room.
Yeah. Okay.
As well, with a spell.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Understood. So Gareth kind of like locks it normally behind him and starts to head off, and you just spend a few moments.
Yeah. Just sort of etching the runes into the frame, like really lightly, that people can't see.
Yeah. Okay. So that takes you a little bit of time in terms of reading through all that material and working it all out and such like. So where were you going, Torg? Were you going with Lothar or?
So Lothar's plan is to go and hang outside. Is that right? Yeah, I think I'd probably leave you to it and hang around in Domi's room, just kind of watching Cirque leafing through the material and reading out excerpts and listening intently,
shouting half things at you.
Yeah, I'll be very interested in that. But I'll also be keeping one eye out the window subtly if I can, see if I can, just keep an eye on Lothar and this nefarious character.
Yeah. Okay. So with awareness rolls, what I've decided to do is I've decided to say that there's a base level of hobbits outside.
I can hear something.
Door.
Yeah.
There's a base level of
my
hobbits.
passive perception.
Give you a little kiss.
Oh, thank you.
Come back up to get my duvet.
Okay, thank you very much. So I've decided there's a base level of information that you're like almost guaranteed to get, and therefore an awareness roll is whether you obtain more from that. Sometimes situations will be that the awareness roll is required to not be ambushed or what have you, but I think the awareness roll is to see what more you could find beyond what I think is the base that you would sensibly, reasonably get. So if you give me an awareness roll there, Torg.
Just talk. Yep. I've got 1 point in awareness now, which is going to help massively. 13. 13, and I could spend a point of hope to make it 19. So I'll do that. I'll spend a point, get one back from the fellowship.
Yeah. Okay. So as you're kind of like standing, keeping an eye on this, there's a point where Cirque kind of absent-mindedly kind of stands up as he's reading something, just starts to pace backwards and forwards as he's trying to work something out. It's just easing the cogs of his mind.
Holding the letter up to the window.
Yeah, so as soon as you start to hold the letter up, hold up to the letter of the window, you see the figure kind of like takes a little bit of a shit. And then kind of like takes a note of it, whistles another figure over, says something to him, kind of like points up at the window, clearly describing like Dwarf holding something up to the window, and then it kind of tootles off. So you see this very obviously from where you are as well, Lothar.
Okay. I'm back on duty now, dropping the beer. And do I have to give chase? Are they departing?
Lothar tries to drop the beer, but he just can't. He has to finish it, and then he can drop the.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
By
yeah,
dropping
I'm
it, he
just-
means down his throat.
Ah, okay.
I'm
it's
sorry, I
still in it.
misspoke. So what I meant to say is I need to empty the tankard in an appropriate place and then
Yeah.
discard it as you do.
Okay. So you've seen this the figure do this, whistle it across. It takes a few moments for them to have this conversation, and then the kind of other kid doesn't race off, but starts to move with some intent.
So I will follow. They'll try to follow them and to blend in as well, trying to use my stealth and
Okay.
invisibility cloak or whatever that may be.
I didn't know you had an invisibility cloak. Did you?
That's what he's doing in his downtime.
You know that sort of Harry Potter guy. No, let's not go there.
Okay. I didn't know you got one for Christmas. That was all. Yeah. Okay.
It's because Torg's rich, so he gave Lothar an invisibility cloak for Christmas.
Ah.
Yeah.
What did I get?
That's it.
Did you buy one for everyone?
Yeah, everyone's got two.
Is
Brilliant.
Torg Batman rich? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, that's probably another level.
I always wanted to know what happens if you're wearing invisibility cloak, and then what if you put invisibility cloak on you? Does that cancel out? That you bounce back?
I think you probably get a bit sweatier.
Yeah,
Anyway,
sorry.
okay.
I
Anyway,
really
sorry.
can't see, but they can
So give me a stealth roll, and please, please. Talk.
Yes. Let's have a look. Come on. I need to hide. Oh, there's a 6 there. That's good. 19, great success.
19, great success. Okay,
Yep.
so you get
Weighing
on
the
your
dice tonight.
you get on your clearly you needed that second adventure to allow you to actually get some points that you could spend that second fellowship phase. So you get up on your tippity toes, and you start to as soon as he stops, you stop. He reads a paper, you read a paper. No, so you kind of like nonchalantly kind of like move off, get yourself into the kind of the walk in the traffic. You know, it's like you finished your beer, now you get on with your business kind of aura that you're giving off. Heads off the side road that the Golden Sheaf is located on into I think it's the River Road that goes towards the market square, and the census are starting to flood you again. The trade wagons that are kind of coming in. You're quite close to the common area. There's quite a lot of noise. You can't see the grass of the common area because of the volume of tents that are pitched on there at the moment, and lots and lots of kids and kind of chickens squawking around, dogs lazing in the sun as you're following this figure. And the figure walks up to a kind of like small table set in front of a pastry stall in the market, on the edge of the market square, and there's maybe 3 or 4 tables in front of this pastry stall, clearly for the customers. Kind of sits down and joins what looks to be members of the gang, all very similar age, all very similar kind of like clothing and such like. Then a couple of the tables are occupied, and then you see coming down a more affluently well-dressed figure wearing kind of Clark's colours, so a more dark kind of suit. It's got the trim that indicates he's part of the chancellery of King Bard. He kind of gets a pastry and sits at a table, the table next to this bigger group.
Is there a spare table for moi?
You could sit on the edge of a other table. It's not a spare table of its own, but it looks like a fairly communal kind of like a space.
Okay, so with a sense of purpose, I just sort of walk in straight up to the stall, order 1 pastry, and just casually just sort of
What kind of pastry do you want? What kind of pastry?
Oh, give me what you recommend. What was your best one today?
For a dwarf, this. It's parsley and thyme.
I like that. Let's give it a try.
Okay. Yeah, it's like a fold over pastry with the herbs in the centre. Quite flaky, a bit more greasy than you would expect if you're entirely honest.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can just sit at the table.
Yes. Yeah. Just I will try to be as close as possible so that my eavesdropping, range is active.
Okay. It's sat there with like a little speaker thing. Oh, like receptive thing. Headphones on. Okay, so you're trying to listen into their conversation.
Absolutely, yeah. Just sort of shamelessly.
So there'll be a certain amount of information that you'll hear, but give me an awareness roll to see how much more you may be able to kind of like pick up on.
I would go for 0, but let's try. You know what? I'm feeling lucky today. I shall invest a point of hope.
Recover it from the fellowship pool.
Yes, please. 14 then.
14. Okay. So you hear them talking, and there's a little bit of banter to start. Yeah, kind of a little bit of just generally these guys just come up to the group and they're gently mocking him. He's clearly got a younger sister that's coming of age, and they're kind of all talking a little bit about that. And then they start to talk about and this next phase isn't particularly natural, so your awareness roll kind of indicates that this part's not particularly natural. Starts to talk about there's been some in the room, and then he describes Cirque, and that's all that he describes. I think there were some others there as well. He was holding up a piece of paper to the window. We're going to follow. He's going to follow them as they're going.
Okay, and just to check on that well-dressed man, is there any interaction from him or any reactions? I just want to see if you're trying to sort of pull a wool over my eyes, or is just genuine sort of guy that's up to no good.
You got an option. You could do an awareness roll. You could do an insight roll. If you trying to,
yeah,
I guess it would be an insight roll actually, because you're trying to read him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
roll.
I'm trying to find out if he's part of the game.
Yeah. Okay.
I've just managed to.
Punches the camera across the room.
Yeah.
I've just knocked my tower over, man. That's no
what
good.
you don't know.
And actually, I have knocked a tower.
Does that draw the attention of the people at the other table?
That's right.
No, so by knocking the tower over, I have unleashed the fury of Sauron because I have an eye of the guy and 3.
Oh, okay.
An eye of the guy.
An eye of the guy and 3.
I have Sauron.
So you think he's fairly oblivious? He's fairly oblivious to it all.
Fair enough. Just carrying on listening to these clowns.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what they.
Well, I fixed my contraption.
Yeah. Okay. So that's
all right. Okay, but that they have mentioned to go back. I'll just follow them back. I'll eat my overly fatty pastry.
Yeah. Okay. So they're kind of like starting to disperse a little bit. Make me an awareness roll though.
Me again? Okay. Yes,
Please,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Gandalf? No, that's a 2.
Okay.
Too much fat on that pastry makes me slow.
A few moments after those figures leave, the clerk finishes off his pastry, kind of gets up and wanders off. Some more customers kind of like come. The pastry owner comes out, starts to tidy the tables down a little bit, starts to starts to clean the tables, right the chairs, that kind of thing.
What about these bandits or the gang? What are they doing?
They've dispersed. They've started to move off. A group of about 3 of them are heading towards the other side of the market square. The other 3 are heading kind of not back to they're heading towards the river road, actually.
Yeah, I'll follow them wherever they are going, and if they start to depart from the route to the Golden Chef, I will just go on the Golden Chef.
Yeah, okay. So they walk past the
in that
turn in
direction.
to the Golden Sheaf without turning in that way.
Okay. In that case, if they're not heading that way, I'll just go back.
Yeah. Okay. You head back, which is probably around about the same time that Cirque finishes with his reviews.
Okay. So I come in. So I'm joining them in the room, right? In the poor
okay. So
dwarf's room.
you walk into the Golden Sheaf, up into Lovdar. Torg and Cirque are coming back down. Torg is with Gareth as you're kind of like coming in. Cirque is just finishing some business off up there.
Okay. I just sort of quickly just report back what I saw. Sorry. I followed this funny looking man, went to the market. They joined up in a gang. Sorry, excuse me. Thank you. They joined up in a gang, had a bit of a conversation, and they did mention you, Cirque. So there is interest. They later on dispersed, so I couldn't really follow. They didn't really go in a specific direction, so I just came back. But I think whoever said that was right, that this gang is quite interested in what you have now found.
That's good, because hopefully we'll at least lead attention away from the Golden Sheaf. Take their eye off it a bit more. I don't want to be putting these guys in danger.
Yeah, especially if they're convinced that you have something on you or in your possession. But that means we're losing a good night's sleep in the Golden Sheaf and black puddings as well. So.
Yeah.
They're all booked
what
up
time
anyway.
of day is it, Paul?
So it's probably now early afternoon, just after lunchtime.
So I think the clock is ticking against us now, because we've definitely got what it is they were after. If they're after the same thing that the orc was after, which is knowledge, Domi's knowledge, and we definitely can't stay in the Golden Sheaf, and we need to find somewhere safe to take this stuff.
If we only had more money, we could go to perhaps a more upmarket inn.
And to give Cirque time to go through it properly as well.
Well, I'd have to go back to Erebor to do the research if I'm going to follow what Domi found and recreate it.
Maybe we should head back there. If we're convinced that the bandits will not attack the Golden Sheaf, then maybe.
Well, if they think we've got whatever it is they're looking for.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that when we leave, we are seen, if you know what I mean.
Yep. Okay. So you're heading back to Erebor.
Unless you want to inquire as to the nature of his death, to Donar's death.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a couple of leads we haven't followed up. So we haven't followed up Donar properly, and we haven't followed up the maid. We could potentially speak to the maid, but this is all kind of, the way I see it is, we're against the clock, because we've got quite valuable information here that we should probably secure. There's no one in Dale really that can protect us, that we could turn to.
Well, they were
Well,
still. Are they still going to be seeking the letters?
I think they will be interested in getting hold of whatever it is, but at the same time, I kind of feel like our small band is probably scary enough to them, and also quite well prepared to face, a reasonable
Do you think we should take the letters
attack.
with us then?
I definitely think we should take
I think,
them.
yeah, I agree. Yeah. I don't think we're as safe in Dale as we would be anywhere else. Not that we have to worry too seriously about our safety, but I think there's less of a reason for us to be here, and perhaps if we drag them out at least towards Erebor, whoever is after us.
What about the band of dwarven hunters that are camped out in Dale?
So they
They've
left
left.
well before you went out even to join Gunvar. They heard they were going up into the Twisted Heath, I think.
Hunting drakes.
Yeah, and Dane took you into confidence that there's at least rumours, or more than rumours, evidence of a drake kind of like closer to the city than he feels comfort with.
Right. Okay.
I mean, not teeing up any future adventures or anything.
Well,
Didn't you promise us to go help them fight a cold drake anyway?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's called
have...
The Laughter of Dragons, right? Well, so what's the safest place when you're in a storm? Right in the middle of it, right? So the other option is we could just
or
stay
several hundred miles away from there.
in the Golden Sheaf.
Away from said storm, in a stormproof bunker.
It's an interesting proposition, Tog.
And, lay a bit of bait.
I'm all up for bait. Although that could be up for the bait, but...
Hey!
When you say baits, are you suspiciously looking at me?
No, just in my screen, I'm looking at my face directly. I'm happy to play that role.
No, what I mean is, you said they described me.
Oh,
and
sorry.
They know I've got the info.
I think if anyone is bait, Cirque is the bait.
Well, since you put it that way, well, yes.
We don't have any allies.
I'm always the bait.
But we'll always protect you.
Could we go dump the chest
into the river?
No, you know where Balin was hiding.
Like
that place was fairly
okay.
hidden. Or we just take the letters. Because it's probably easier to travel with the letters than it is with the chest.
Yeah. I mean, take the important stuff.
Well, if you're saying our clock's ticking, then we need to be getting back to Erebor if we need me to work out where he thinks the mausoleum is to beat them, then to get there to find out if Domi's at the mausoleum. If you're not bothered about looking into anything more with Donar or the maid and actually booking it, we need to get our gear together and get back to the mountain.
Yeah, I would say probably not. I wouldn't probably look into the maid because it is important, but it's not that much of a priority.
Well, we can make assumptions, can't we? We can assume that the maid was attacked by one of these ruffians that you've been following, and that the ruffians are somehow in league with this orc who tried to break into Domi's room. And we can also assume that Donar somehow got himself caught up in this because he would have been hanging around late at night, deep into his cups.
Yeah.
Seen an orc, drawn a blade, and not been at his best.
He could have just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. As simple as that.
In that case, don't ask. Go back up to the room, unlock the door, unlock the chest, get the letters, lock the chest, lock the door, get downstairs, and then let's book it.
I'd like to really briefly and quietly just ask Margaret and Gareth about Donar. Just about the circumstances of his death.
Okay.
Sure. Do that.
They look at each other. Truth be told, Gareth says, and Margaret gives him a gentle nod and puts her arm on his arm as reassurance. Truth be told, we don't really know how he died. It's been quite hard to get the information from the guard and from the watch. He left here as he normally does. I mean, he was loving it at the time. Many more travellers coming in. Many of the travellers didn't know what they were doing sitting in the chair opposite him. So he had quite a lot of audience to talk to. And he would stay and he would get drinks, and you know what he was like. He left one night and was found dead the next day, not by us. And before we had opportunity to understand what was happening, his body had been taken, and the guards. Well, I guess. Another murdered dwarf. Okay. We don't know if he was murdered, but we've just not been able to establish any facts.
So the found by the guards, the city guard, they're not feeling particularly generous towards dwarves at the minute. Anyway, they're probably going to be quite tight-lipped about the whole thing. So very sad to hear of his passing, but one way or another we'll get to the bottom of what happened to Donar.
Margaret kind of like looks at Gareth, and Gareth kind of like makes a slight motion back to her, and she kind of starts to talk, and you can see Gareth is not entirely impressed with that, and Margaret says, it's more that they're being tight-lipped about it. It's almost like they've been told not to say anything. We get guards in here all the time. You get a couple of beers into a guard, and they just talk. They're worse than the washerwoman on the square. But you even try to bring it up, and it just gets shut down completely.
Well, in that case, maybe they'd be more likely to speak with you, Margaret, in that situation than they would with a dwarf. So the next time one of the city guard are in here, or a group of them, and I'll kind of push a couple of coins in her direction, offer them some drinks on the house, and bend their ear for stories of strange occurrences, particularly of those involving dwarves.
She pushes the money back. Aye.
Okay.
We don't need weird girls. I'll do that. Donar is a friend. I sang for him. I know a little of the life that he had. We'll do that.
Excellent.
And Cirque comes
we must
back
be on
down,
our way.
having gathered the materials.
Then we must leave.
Aye.
Are we ready?
Expect we may get waylaid on our way back.
There's a
So
risk.
just to be prepared.
Definitely a risk.
Yep. Okay. So you step out. Go on.
So I suggest the route we take is out of the city is whatever's busiest, whatever's most well travelled, and the same back to the thing. Not necessarily. We're looking for while speed is important, I'd not sacrifice speed for company, shall we say, at this stage.
Yeah, so you can go. So it can be main drag all the way to Erebor. Essentially, you
Yeah.
don't need to kind of like cut across side streets or anything along those lines. If you imagine that the market square is the center of Dale, so if Dale is like this square, this frame around me, for instance, the market square there, the road to Erebor up there, the road to the rest of the world there. So essentially, you've kind of got the ability to hit the main drag very quickly and through the market square and out into Erebor, basically.
We're not going to attempt any kind of subterfuge or try to be covert, because I think aside from Lothar, we're not particularly sneaky by nature.
No,
I don't think we want to be.
As much as I'm not anticipating a fight, I'd rather draw them out and do it on our terms, on the roads we know, rather than in their twisty back streets of a city that I'm sure they know far better than we do.
I like that.
Sound
I like-
principle.
Yep.
And if we expect them coming, a trap's not a trap. It's only a trap if you don't know it's there.
Yeah. Okay.
We've seen worse, I'm sure.
Okay. So let's take a break. Let's just take 5 or 10 minutes there, and then we'll come back to it. So you step out into the late afternoon, mid-afternoon sunlight of Dale. Still incredibly busy. Still lots of noise, lots of movement around. A couple of chickens in front of the Golden Sheaf. And we'll come back. So we'll just take 10 minutes, have a quick break. This could be the end of the episode if you're watching on YouTube, and we'll see you soon. Thanks very much for watching, those people on YouTube.
Bye. Bye,
That was
YouTube people.
That was an interesting take on a end of a video wrap.